Hey everyone, welcome to the That's Allowed podcast. This is your hostess, Dr. Audrey-Ann McKeon, and today I am here with Jenni Harris. Jenni, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, and first of all, thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. It's an absolute honour and privilege to be here. So my name is Jenni Harris, and I, as you can probably tell from the accent, I am from England. And where do I start? I'm a former police officer. I was a sergeant for 27 years in policing. I am married with two, I always go to say boys, but they're two men. They are my boys. See, I just did it again. My boys are 20 and 22, and I absolutely adore them. I am still not a police officer anymore, but I am an investigator. So that's what I do for my full-time job. That's what pays the bills. And then my business is in health and nutrition. So I work mainly and predominantly with women and helping them to look good, feel great, and show up as the best version of themselves every single day. And as it's October the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's the same I'm guessing this is a global awareness, but October is, certainly in the UK, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. And as we're here and we are getting vulnerable, I'm going to share with you that I am a breast cancer survivor. So I am a year and about 5 months out of treatment. And I am super proud and very happy about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is wonderful. So there's so much in there that I can't wait to unpack, but I will go ahead and ask you the question I always ask. So what's the story you're not telling?
Oh, that is a great question. And you know, I've never been asked that question. So what's the story that I'm not telling? Oh dear. Okay, so this is going to be a little uncomfortable because I don't often say this out loud. This is something that I do tend to keep to myself. But one of my big goals, I'll start with my big goal and then work back from that. Okay. So one of my big goals, one of my big life goals is to own and run a retreat for women of domestic violence. And what drives that is that my mom she's no longer with us, but my mom was a long-suffering domestic violence sufferer. And I grew up seeing that. So I grew up watching that. I grew up, my mom's only daughter and her eldest child in the UK. I have an older brother that lives in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. I grew up with myself. I was the eldest and my two younger brothers. And I was the one that was, because back then we didn't have telephones in our house. We didn't have one. So you had to go out and use public telephone boxes. And I remember, for as long as I can remember, running from the house to the telephone box to call the police to help my mum, because there was shouting, fighting, abuse, which wasn't very pleasant. So the retreat that I want is for women who, not just to escape, I don't want a refuge. That's not what I want. What I want is a place where women can go once they've left that kind of ordeal and they're on the road to recovery. Mm-hmm. The place and the space I want to create for them, because there's a lot of stuff that goes with domestic violence, and I'm not qualified to even talk about the reasons why. But I know, what I do know is that if you don't deal with what attracted that in the first place, it repeats itself. So I want to have the space I want to create for women, and the place is going to be called Millie's Place. My mom's name is Millie, so that's the name of the place that I'm going to have. But the idea is that they will go there to start that repair and that road to recovery. And they can come back once a year annually for the rest of their lives. So I want there to be like mindset coaches to help with mindset, personal growth coaches, and even some pampering and yoga, meditation, that really kind of nice space where they can come and start to repair themselves to become the best version of themselves, so that they will no longer tolerate that type of behavior.
That is so beautiful. As a survivor of domestic abuse myself, I deeply, deeply appreciate that. And I will say, you know, we know that leaving is just like step zero. You
Yeah.
know, the real work then comes after that. Because, like any addictive cycle, an abusive relationship is covering up some kind of pain that we are not facing. And so, as soon as we leave, guess what? We're by ourselves with our pain. And then you have to look at it and then you have to deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's challenging. And I think, I don't know. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of stuff that I need to unpack. But I think one of the reasons why I took the path to go into policing was to try and help.
Yeah.
So as a child, I felt really helpless. So I think, I don't know, and I'm sure I probably could do with talking to somebody myself, but I think that's probably one of the reasons why I went down that path. And I have no doubt that seeing that behavior has very much shaped the person I am today. And
Yeah.
not all of it is good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just picturing little Jenny, you know, running to the phone box to call the police, you know, it's like that's who you reached out for to say help,
Mhm.
help. And so I imagine that that is a big part of why you decided to go into policing and why you do what you do now to help people not just to recover but to thrive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And I've been here a long time. I've been here a few years, and and the things that we have now definitely weren't around back then. And I certainly my early days of policing, and even I'm going back. Gosh, I'm going back when I first started in policing. It's like 32 years ago, and so even 32 years ago, which doesn't seem, it sounds like a lot of numbers. It doesn't feel like a lot of numbers to me because I've lived it. But even the changes that have happened since then are virtually recognizable. So the things that my mom had to, I guess, tolerate, because women leaving wasn't the done thing.
Yeah.
There was nowhere for them to go. Women didn't have the level of independence, the level of support, the networks that they have now. Women didn't have that
Yeah.
back then. I knew that my mom really wanted to leave, but she didn't have anywhere to go. And she
Yeah.
had 3 children. We were all under, she had 3 kids under 7, 8. So where was she going to go? And there was, the only option she was given was to go into a refuge. And she said, I don't want to take my children there. So then you kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. And, for a long time, and this is another part of the story, for a long time, I was really angry with my mom. I was angry with her because I couldn't understand why she didn't just leave.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why she would allow herself to be treated that way. And I always vowed that that was never going to happen to me. So it was hard. It was hard because I saw her as weak, but I also know that my mom was I now know that I'm good. My mom was one of the strongest women I ever know, that I
Yeah.
ever met. And for her to have sacrificed, I guess, she sacrificed a lot. And I'm really grateful for that. Even though I couldn't see it at the time. I look at my brothers and I'm so proud of my mom because what she did. And one of the things that I know and through experience, is that that cycle of men abusing women just keeps going and going until someone breaks the cycle. Boys that grow up with abusive dads, they go on to abuse because that's the reality that they know. They think that's the way to get what they want, and that behavior just keeps going. And then they attract women who for whatever needs they have to try and fix these men, and then the thing starts again. And I'm so proud of my two brothers, who are 3 years and 4 years younger than me. And they have, they're in long-term relationships. My dad was a serial, didn't understand long-term relationships, just didn't do that. And my brothers are in long-term relationships that they're, coming up for 20 years. They have 2 children, both have 2 children with the same women. My dad didn't do that. My dad has 8, there was 8 of us with, I forget how many women. And my brothers haven't repeated that behavior. And I'm so proud of that. And I think that's down to my mom. Certainly wasn't down to my dad. He wasn't there. Certainly the values that she, despite what she was going through, that she tried to instill into us, are her legacy.
Yeah. Looking back, do you understand why she didn't just leave?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm a grown up now, so I know that. Well, first of all, I understand that there are some. I think the number. Don't quote me on this, but there's a horrendous statistic that women, by the time they reach out for help, there's been around 37 incidents that have taken place before they reach out for help. And that's now. That's in the 21st century. I'm talking about back in 1970s when this was happening to my mom. Where was she going to reach out for help? Nobody helped. The domestic violence policies and stuff in policing and within organisations now that are there to support women were not there back then. Women were almost seen, and it just grieves me. Women were almost seen as property. If you were with a man, you were his property, so he could do pretty much what he wanted. And the wording was, it's a domestic. It's what happens between a man and a wife. That's not for anybody else to get involved in. I'm so glad it's changed. I'm so glad that we've evolved, that women now have the support. But even with all the support, there are still women who just I don't know what it is, but it takes time. It takes that time. And like you say, it's when they actually make that decision to go, that's just day one. There's so much space that they need to get to heal. And that's where my retreat is going to come in.
Yeah. So when did the tide kind of turn in your family? When did things start to change?
When my mom left. So I can remember the date and the day as if it was yesterday. So it was Friday, the 4th of January, 1974.
Wow.
When my mom took probably the beating of her life. Yeah. My dad chased her from the house. She tried to get away. And he chased her from the house. Me and my brothers were in the house. He chased her out of the house. And then the next thing I remember is seeing an ambulance coming, hearing the sirens coming and realising it was coming from my mum. So she went, she went to hospital and she was there for a few days. And then, she made the decision then that he was going to kill her.
Yeah.
So she had to, it was either, and she was worried about the kids. She was worried that if he couldn't get her, then he would turn on us. And to be fair, my dad never did. He never did hit any of us. I certainly don't remember him doing that. He didn't seem to. He just didn't. But I think my mum genuinely feared after that if he couldn't get to her, it would be us. So that was the turning point for her when
Or
she
that if
decided.
you tried to protect her,
Yeah,
that you could get hurt. I mean, there's a
yeah,
lot of different things that can happen there.
yeah,
Absolutely. So it sounds like that rock bottom point was also the turning point for
yeah.
you, because it was this breaking point where she decided that that's all I can stand.
Yeah,
uh,
and I kind of think I also, it didn't stop there though, because we
mhm,
had to stay in the house. So even though they were separated and would then live in separate lives within the house,
mhm.
um, he would still come and show up and just hit her for fun. Um, so for me, in terms of my turning point, I remember age 10 saying that to my mom, out of the mouth of babes, that I was never going to get married, ever. And I also remember when I was about 15, saying that I was never going to have children, because by the time I got to 15, my mom was struggling. She was struggling financially. She was on her own. My mom was older than my dad as well. So she was 13 years older than my dad. So things were back again. I'm going back to the 80s. Things were tricky. Getting a mortgage by yourself was,
Mm.
and she was older, so that wasn't really an option. So things started for us when my parents separated and eventually, went their separate ways. Money was a real issue for my mom, and I remember categorically saying that I would never have children unless I could afford to have them and give them what they needed. Um, and I meant that. I really, really meant it until I met my husband. And it was, and you kind of, life, these things happen in life and shape and form you as you go along that road. And yeah, and, I've been married for 23 years now. And yeah, my husband has never raised a hand to
Good.
me. Never.
So what has blocked you from sharing this story before now?
I think, that's a great question. I think there's a lot of shame. When both my parents are dead now. So my mother died in 2012 and my dad died in 2017. And there was a lot of shame, a lot of embarrassment, a lot of, there was a lot of that, and off the back of that, we had no money. So the kind of latter part of my childhood, going into teenage years before I left home, were tough. That it wasn't easy, and I kind of think that people look at me and think, and probably wouldn't believe me, because they see where I am now, but they didn't know me then. And I
Yeah.
think I've also been very good at hiding it, because I was ashamed of where I'd come from. And I was also very frightened that those behaviors would show up in my own life. And I wouldn't know how to deal with them. So
Yeah.
I didn't know. And so for a long time, I didn't get really involved in serious relationships because I didn't want to go down that road.
Mm.
So there's been a lot of stuff that has, that's kind of hung around for a while.
Yeah. So you mentioned that this kind of drove you to go into policing and then also to create this retreat.
Yes.
How else did it change you growing up like that?
So growing up, I was very shy. So it really affected my confidence.
Hmm.
Um, I remember there would be, a huge fight between mum and dad, in the night, which would wake me up, but then I would have to go to school the next day.
Yeah.
and just pretend that nothing had happened. And who would you tell? And also there was the embarrassment that people might have seen the police come to the house.
Yeah.
So I was very shy. I kept myself to myself, because then I didn't have to say anything, and nobody would ask me anything. So I was not a lonely child, but I threw my energy into sport. I was very good at sport because I didn't have to talk to anybody. I could just be good at that. And that was kind of a detractor, I guess, from what was really happening.
Yeah. So a distraction, but also I would think a way to channel some of that energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was using it as a distractor, I think. I definitely,
Fair enough.
when people were talking about how good I was at sport, they weren't asking me about home. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So what about now? How do you think it affects you now?
how do I think it affects me now? I think I'm very, I think affects is probably not quite the right word, but
Mm-hmm.
it's certainly, I am acutely aware, I guess, if of people's behaviors. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very good at reading people.
Yeah.
Very good. I am really good at that. Really good at reading people, reading situations. I'm very good at keeping myself safe. So as time went on, I could kind of, I could be at the door and at that telephone kiosk calling the police before it escalated.
Yeah.
So now I am very good at reading people, very good at, but I'm also, in terms of, I also, even though my business is all about people, I know that I'm still not deeply mistrustful of people, but I keep people at arm's length. It takes me a bit of
Yeah.
time to suss people out, as in, not that I can't suss them out. They need to show me who they are, because I don't always trust people.
Yeah. It's
Is
interesting. So on a recent episode with Arian Smith, we talked about your superpowers and how trauma can often kind of not cause those superpowers, because trauma doesn't cause superpowers. But what it does is it helps you realize that potential was there.
mm,
It's this opportunity to say, oh, I need this reserve. Oh, guess what? Here it is. And to learn that you have these things within you. And so I find that really common, that when someone has gone through this kind of trauma as a child, they get this superpower of being able to read the room and know when the energy just even a little bit
just a
changes.
tiny bit.
Mm-hmm.
I can pick that up very,
Yeah.
very, yeah. And the thing is, it's kept me safe in policing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have, people have said to me, how did you talk your way out of that? And it's because I went in and nipped it in the bud before it escalated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think and even on the when I was very young in policing, and we still used to go out and do a lot of socializing, I could walk into somewhere and know that this was not a good place to be, and
Yeah.
I could immediately turn around and leave. And and sometimes it's not always great, because some of my friends who weren't police officers could not, they would get like, well, it feels great in here, and I'd be like, no, I need to go.
Mm.
And sometimes I also wished I lived in their world, where I didn't see this stuff, or
Yeah.
figure it out before everybody else did. But then I also trusted my gut 99% of the time to keep me safe. I didn't always
Yeah.
use it to make the right decisions, but certainly keep me safe. I could pretty much do that.
Yeah. It's a funny thing. So you're just reminding me of something that happened recently. Next door, they moved out, and so the house is up for sale. And there's all these people that come through to look at the house and things. And one day I was outside with my two girls, and then I saw this guy drive up, and I just got this feeling. immediately. There was something about the look on his face, something about the way he was driving. And I was like, girls, get inside. And they were like, why? And I was like, just get inside. Okay, we'll talk about it later. And the
Yeah.
guy gets out, slams the door, and he walks up and he's like banging on the door. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on over here, but like, not good things, right? Not good things. So I went inside, but I was like, it's just so funny how, he just drove up. Like he hadn't
Yeah.
done anything yet. I just knew. And I think part of that is just intuition, but I think it really, people who have been in situations where there's a lot of volatile emotions, and those
Mm.
volatile emotions can be life threatening.
Mm.
Man, are you attuned to those little
Yeah.
temperature changes?
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So the next question I have is, who needs to hear it? Who needs to hear this
Yeah, you
story?
asked. That's a good question. You've asked me that. Who needs to hear it? I don't know. I think. Um, I think. I don't know. I don't know. We've all got a story to tell, and I love that quote where your survival story, your story could become somebody's survival story,
Yeah.
and so you must share it, you must tell it. But I guess I don't know. I guess that's why I've never said it, because it brings up emotions that I don't necessarily like. I don't necessarily like being vulnerable. I don't necessarily like the fact that people know where I've come from and how challenging and difficult that was. So, but then in the same breath, you know, not that I would ever advocate this as somewhere to find strength, but I definitely feel that that circumstance and that journey gave me a lot of strength. I definitely know what I like and what I won't tolerate. So it kind of, and I guess it shaped it very early. Some people don't quite recognize it for a little while. I knew from a very, very, very early age what it should look like, what I'd like my home life to look like. So it's who needs to hear this? I think anybody who I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. I really I don't know.
That's
Who needs to
totally
hear it?
fair. That's totally fair. So the next question is, what's the main message or takeaway?
The main message and takeaway from this is that it doesn't matter where you come from or where you started. I guess that's my message. No matter where you come from, where you started, you are in charge of where you go.
Yeah.
You are the author of your own story. So whatever that beginning looked like, however uncomfortable that beginning was, however traumatic it was, every day we have the opportunity to write our own story. And if we don't like a particular chapter, we just write a new one. So so it doesn't matter. It's the takeaway is it doesn't have to define you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to define you. So that's the takeaway. That
Great.
beginning, my beginning was not great. My children, I wouldn't want it for them. They didn't have that beginning. But I think everything happens for a reason. I like that quote, but I don't always like the horrible stuff that comes with it. But I definitely, would I have been the strong enough character to have gone into policing had I not got that backstory? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. Would I have had the understanding and empathy for victims and people who are suffering trauma had I not got that backstory? Probably not. So everything does happen for a reason. And
Absolutely.
I'm the person I am today as a result of it all.
So that's such a beautiful segue, but I do want to go back to something that you said in there because I think you've answered the question of who needs to hear this. It's anyone who is struggling with the feeling like their past defines them,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So your story is for anyone who's feeling like, oh, well, I came from this place and I had this trauma and that is who I am. And so your
It's
message
not.
is no, it's not.
It's not. No,
It's
it's
not.
not. Definitely
Absolutely.
not. Definitely not.
So the next part is the fun part. And so you've segued
Yay!
so beautifully into it. So I want you to close your eyes for a moment.
Okay.
Yes. I am waving a magic wand. Okay. And all
Okay.
your dreams have now come true. Everything that you desire so deeply, you have it. It is here
Oh.
now. So I want you to look around your life and describe it for me. What do you see in this beautiful, ideal existence around you?
Oh. A beach?
Yes, let's start there.
Let's start with a beach.
Mm-hmm.
My perfect ideal life. My children are happy. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
have grandchildren. I live in I want a big house with lots of noise and joy and people having fun, and not having to, no concerns around money at
Mm-hmm.
all. I can be and have what I want and help even more people to be, do, and have. And then obviously built beautifully is this fabulous retreat full of women who are on that journey to being the best version of themselves.
Absolutely. So I want you to just really revel in that feeling for a moment. You're on this beach. Breathe in.
Yes.
You can breathe in that sea air. Smell that.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear the birds cawing. You hear the waves lapping. And just feel what that feels like to know that everyone you care about is taken care of. They are safe. They have everything they need. You have so much abundance and you're creating so much meaning and really helping these people who need your help. And just feel that for a moment. Hmm. Now, is there a piece of music that feels the way that feels to you?
Um, it's usually the kind of, I like the music that you use for meditation, like the waves and that type of
Yeah.
sound. That's what that does for me.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, what I want you to do, we're going to go on with the exercise, but I just want to say, I want you to get that picture of the beach, whatever
Okay.
that is. Find that on the internet or wherever you can.
Okay.
And every day, I want you to listen to some sounds of the waves or some music that really is relaxing, and just look at that for a moment and feel that feeling again, just for like 15 seconds. Okay,
I
cool.
do that anyway.
I bet you do.
I do that anyway.
Wonderful,
It's
wonderful.
so important to put that feeling into
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But now we're going to go a step further because I know you're a planner and I know you
Okay.
like to have a map and a path.
Yeah.
So I want
Okay.
you're sitting here on your beach. I want you to think back into your memory from this place. What was the step that happened just before this? Were you building the retreat center? What was it that you were working on just before this beautiful moment here?
Oh. Um.
What had to happen so that you could have this beautiful moment on the beach?
Oh. Yeah. No. Do you want to tell you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So, so my business that I'm building, growing
Mm-hmm.
now, that needs to be producing all the finances, and then I kind of want to collaborate with kind of 4 or 5 people to put this thing together. So it's not
Absolutely.
just people with the same vision wanting to create the same thing, and it may well be a therapist or so somebody who has
Yeah.
that big goal of wanting to create this space, and then invest in it. So yeah, that's
Beautiful. Yeah. So I imagine you are very proactive. So you're probably already searching for those collaborators.
I am, yes.
Good, good, good.
Definitely always looking, but yes.
Beautiful. So let's just put that out into the universe. We're going to do a little, what I call a gratitude in advance prayer,
Okay.
which is we're just going to say, thank you, universe, God, whatever we call you. Thank you so much for these collaborators who are going to hear this and who are going to come to Jenni and say, I want to work with you. Thank you so much for that. That is going to bring so much goodness into the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Is there anything else you want the audience to know before you tell them how to find you?
Anything else I want them to know? What about me or what I do or
Anything
anything?
you want them to know.
Okay, so I run a business. So my business is all about nutrition and
Mhm.
all about feeling the best way you could possibly feel every single day. So as a breast cancer survivor, it was really important to me that nutrition to feed my body. My treatment
Yeah.
was horrendous. It was awful. It was aggressive, but it needs to be that way for me to survive and come out the other end.
Yeah.
And to thrive, I had to flood my body with amazing nutrition. So that's what I do now. And part of that is, so I have two parts to my business. I have happy customers who are quite happy taking the products. And I also have people who take the products and decide they want to share it and build and grow a business just like me. So that's what I'm looking for right now. So if you think, or you are looking for something where you want to just make a difference, not only to your life and your family's life, but you want to build a financial wall, a security blanket around your family, particularly in these awful times, then I'm looking for motivated, enthusiastic, ambitious women who would love to partner with me. And I love to partner with them. They don't need to have any skills. They just need to be ambitious and have a can-do attitude. So if that's you and you just want to, you can build whatever finances you want, but you've got to be prepared to work for it. It is not a get rich quick scheme. It's not anything like that. It is a real business with real skill, we'll teach you everything you need to know. So yeah, that's it. I'm looking for you because I know you're looking for me.
Fantastic. So where can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook.
Mhm.
So if you type in Jenni Harris, so Jenni Harris, you can find me. My profile is public, so you'll be able to find me. Send me a message and tell me where you saw me. That'd be great. Or I'm on LinkedIn. But what I will do is I will send you my Linktree
Perfect.
link. You can email me. It's jenni@jenniharris.com, on my website, which is jenniharris.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's been an absolute joy and pleasure. I'm not sure that all of it was joy because I was sharing and
Yeah.
being completely vulnerable. But it's nice. It's nice because sometimes I'm sure there's been some cellular healing that's just happened there.
I really believe, I think everything's relative, right? So you cannot have joy without pain. It's not
Exactly.
possible. And so part of why I do this is to bring people through that and then up out of it again to show, hey, it's okay to have that pain. That
Yeah.
pain is part of who you are, but you don't have to sit in it. You don't have to stay in
No.
it.
No, I don't
Yeah.
sit and stink in it and wallow in it. I don't do that. But
Mm-mm.
but it's really important to understand that where you come from doesn't mean you have to stay there. And I see so much of that. I see
Yeah.
so much of that in policing, in society, where people have had an awful start. It's been awful. It couldn't have been any worse. But unfortunately, they just stay in that space. because they don't believe that but they don't have this, they don't feel they have the skills or the network or support to move out of that space. And you have to have courage to pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and decide that actually, no, that space is not where I want to be. I want to be over there in that fabulous space.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of people are waiting for permission. They're waiting for someone to tell them, no, it's okay to let go of that limiting belief. It's okay to let go of that past. You're invited to, the rest of society now. And I think you got to get out of that waiting space and just give yourself permission. Say it's time.
But some people just don't have the tools. And if you're not around people that can help you think that way, I think sometimes it's really hard, because that is your reality. And if everybody around you is the same, then it's almost feels like, that story they talk about, you put loads of frogs in a bucket, and the one's trying to get out and the rest are pulling them back in. And that can be the case for a lot of people. I see it with criminal families where, the children grow up, the parents are criminals, the generations of criminals, and it doesn't necessarily mean that young person wants to be in it. They just don't know anybody else, because the whole network is the same, and where do they go? Where do they find those people that are going to help them to escape that family? And they don't want to be on their own. They don't want to be ostracized. So they just get and just stay there, and it's just not cool.
Yeah. And like you say, not only do they not know anyone else, they don't know anything else. They don't have anything to compare this to.
No.
And it's really hard to envision something that you just have no model for.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really
And I
sad.
think that's why it's really important for us to mentor people and to look for people who, need a little boost out of the situation that they're in.
Absolutely. Domestic violence is no different. For some women, if that's what they've seen, if that's what they've grown up with, they think that that's normal behavior. And it's not until somebody says, or they around people who are like, well, no, that doesn't happen in my house. That's not normal for me. That's not normal. Until they hear that enough and see it, and even, domestic violence is not exclusive to any demographic of people. It goes across the whole spectrum of people, and women and men included. And it's not until sometimes you say they need that permission or courage or whatever that thing is, to think, okay, I need to, this is not going to work. I've got to go. So it's we definitely need to mentor, definitely need support, definitely need to fill ourselves up so much that we're overflowing and we can help so many more people.
Absolutely.
I'll shut up now.
Well, then so will I. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye.